What is up, guys? I'm Kyle at Fortune. Today we're figuring out how to get some more ride, wheelbase, and flex out of the Samurai. Oh. So that's right, as of right now, we are running the stock front Samurai springs in the front of the Samurai in the spring over orientation, and up to now they've been doing fine. And that's not really how you want your suspension to act. You don't want to just say it's fine. You want it to be great, right? So one thing we've been waiting to do with the Samurai is put some rear Samurai springs up front. So really the question wasn't about if, it was when. It's when were we going to put these springs up front? If you watched my video from a couple weeks ago, we actually went through building some rear spring packs and getting them ready to do rears up front. And that video is a lot better at explaining what we want to do and how we're going to do it. So I'll put that up here for you guys to check out. So definitely look at that prior to watching this video if you don't know what rears up front is. In a nutshell, it's just getting Samurai springs from the rear of the Samurai and putting them up front because they're longer, more flexible, and hopefully will offer a better ride and more articulation. So the way we're going to be doing that is using a Dr. Z Fabrication. I'm not going to say kit because it's definitely not a kit. I got a hold of them and I said, look, here's what I want to do. I already have your missing link shackles. Really, it's just shackles for the front of the Samurai, using them with stock springs, and it works great. Compared to a traditional missing link setup, they do look backwards, but I actually installed them exactly how he did it in a couple pictures he had posted on the Samurai Facebook group. That is how they run. They run backwards, and up to this point, they've been working great. Definitely made it so I could actually get some articulation in the front of the Samurai. Before I had those, I had nothing. If you look at my missing link install video, I talk about that a little bit as well. I'll put that video up here too. I had like zero articulation and the ride sucked. Well, with the Samurai front springs and Samurai missing link from him, the ride still sucks. Fortunately, I was able to get some more articulation out of it and is able to get those shocks stretched out. It just did great off-road like that. And I say great compared to not having them. So anyways, one of the issues we're still having with these stock springs up here is the ride is horrible. I mean, it's really bad with the stock Samurai springs. Our wheelbase is so close to the fender in the firewall side that it's actually getting the tire to get wound up in there, and even though I've cut and bent a bunch of that metal in there, the tire is still rubbing in there, and I don't really want to limit that articulation going up, so I've kind of just been living with it. But we also want to get that tire out of the wheel well. Lastly, those Samurai springs can only flex so much. Even with the missing link, the springs aren't even really flexing, it's just the missing link is unloading and it's allowing that part of the axle to drop so the other part can go up. The two questions that I get concerning the safety of the missing links are, how does it drive on the road? Well, on the road there was zero difference noticed. I drove a few hours on the road one time through mountain roads and all that, and it just drives like a normal Samurai would with normal shackles. Now I could see if you were really pushing it on the corners, maybe something could happen. I doubt it, but for me, it was not noticeable at all. Question number two: do these shackles unload when you're going up obstacles? Well, we've put the Samurai through a lot of hard obstacles. It's gone through the Rubicon a couple times now. We've never had them unload on us and make us want to tip over backwards or anything. It just hasn't been a problem. The only thing these missing links have done for us is give us more articulation when we're going through the rocks. I got a hold of Zach from Dr. Z and I told him what I wanted to do. I wanted to try to repurpose these Samurai missing links to use them in a traditional missing link setup. The issue is he doesn't make a kit for that, so I asked him if he would send me out some shackle stops for the YJ spring setup. Now he was concerned that it might not work, and I said, you know what, it's just a risk I'm gonna take. I'm gonna go for it, and if it doesn't work, I'll modify them to make them work. That's basically what we're gonna do here. We're gonna mix Samurai rear springs with the Dr. Z Samurai missing link, and then we're gonna pair that up with a YJ missing link shackle stop. I don't know if it's gonna work, but we are definitely gonna give it a shot. So here is everything that comes with the kit. These are the shackle stops that are going to go inside the frame and bolt up the same way this bumper does. We've got one for each side. We've got some new bolts that go through here so we can throw those on the frame. We've got some of these little pucks that I should have painted, but I forgot to, so now I got to throw some primer on these real quick. These are the bump stops that will go right in this hole right here, and those are what the shackle's going to come up to when it stops on these shackle stops. For later on, we have some big old shackles from Dr. Z Fab. These are available in 1/4 inch or 3/8. I got the big dogs. I didn't specify which size I wanted, so I got these. These things are massive. I could have said, you know, I just need the 1/4 inch ones. Instead, he gave gave me the beef. So these are what we'll put in the rear of the Samurai once we put the missing links and this setup in the front. So this is going to give us another inch in the rear. For right now, we're just going to focus on the front. All right, guys, before I go any further with this install, I got to tell you about something really cool. I got a hold of Zach from Dr. Z Fab, and he said if he can get 160 new subscribers within the first 7 days of this video airing, he will refund my entire order for all these parts I got to make this video. So you're probably asking yourself, why do you care if I get refunded? Well, the cool thing about me getting my money back is I get to put that money back into more supplies and parts for the Samurai so I can make more content like this. Also, his channel is pretty sweet. He has a ton of Suzukis. He's doing some cool sidekicks, some Samurais, other projects he's working on for people, and you get to see some install videos of his products. So all cool stuff. It's a win-win for everybody. So please consider going to his YouTube channel and subscribing. I will put a link down in the description so you can check that out. Or at the end of this video, I'll put one of the buttons on there so you guys can just click that. All right, back to the install. All right, we've got the Samurai in full droop now. So the next thing we need to look at doing is taking these two bolts right here out of the frame. The tricky thing with this is these actually hold the bumper on and the winch, which is a pretty heavy package with both those together. So we're gonna have to figure out how to do that without letting this winch fall. So I think what I'm gonna do is just put a D-ring back in this shackle mount, find a way to hold that up, like maybe with the high lift jack. All right, let's get to it. So normally I would not use a high lift in this capacity. Definitely don't want to have a high lift holding up a lot of weight because these can really just like go either way really fast on you. But in this case, all we're really doing is holding up the bumper and the winch because we have the frame supported with those big jack stands. And I'm only going to take out these bolts, 2 on each end, so the other side will still be in the bumper there. All right, so we've got to get these 2 bolts out right here. And then once we put our new bracket on there, I think that's when I'll just flip this shackle around and hopefully we'll be able to use this same one for our missing link, which should be killer to be able to reuse it. So in the bumper install video, part of it is grinding down one edge of this so it fits in there. Actually makes it nice to get out again too because you don't have to have a socket or a wrench on the other side. Didn't even move. All right, so let's see if our bracket fits up in there or if we have to readjust anything. So it's hard to see, but right here the frame is bent in a little bit. So I think that's all that's holding up this sliding in there, but I'm just gonna push it in there until the holes line up. Second one went on a lot easier because inside the frame over here there were like some little tiny welds that were holding it up. I just hit it with a punch and chipped it all off so this was able to slide in. And then when I was trying to line up the holes, I realized high lift wasn't up high enough, but once it was up high enough, this side came out super fast and this side went in super quick. So that's all done. Now what I'm gonna do is lower everything back to the ground. Gonna take some good measurements so that way we can see what kind of lift and stretch we're gonna get out of this upgrade. Do all that before I flip the shackles and put the new springs in. All right, it's tight quarters in here, so probably not gonna have the best angle at this, but what I'm gonna do is measure from a fixed point to the tire to see how much it's gonna stretch it out. Then I'm gonna measure from the bottom of the fender flare to the top of the tire to see how much lift we gain. This is all approximate. I'm not getting like the most accurate measurement ever, but I will throw some tape on here. That way I'm measuring from the same spot both times. There's my super scientific and exactly marked tape lines on both the ends. So we'll just get an approximate idea of how much lift and how much stretch we're getting out of this. So from the rock slider to the tire, we are at 5 1/4. And for lift height, we are at about 7 inches. All right, so we've got all of our measurements off that driver's side tire over there, just so we can have a reference when we're done flipping these around with the rear springs up front. The next step now is we need to get those U-bolt plates off, and then we're gonna be able to pull this leaf spring out. Then we're gonna take these shackles off, and we're basically gonna flip them around 180 degrees. So you've seen them bend up a couple times. They bend up like this. The point goes that way. we're gonna flip them 180 degrees. So this top link goes right here, and it's gonna be resting against this shackle stop, and then this bottom link is gonna be 90 degrees down like that, connecting that leaf spring back over. All right, we'll see how it goes. The bump stops and the spring plates and U-bolts are off. You can see it's kind of just hovering over the pads right now. So the next thing we need to do is unbolt the shackle from the shackle hanger, unbolt the shackle from the leaf spring, and then in the back, the leaf spring from the leaf spring hanger. So let's see, this is how those shackles were sitting up there before. They would extend like this. What we need is for them to be like this. So we finally got those leaf springs sitting on the perches. We've got the shackles, shackle hangers hooked up. Now we just need to put our U-bolts and our plates back on. And then when we let the Samurai down, the axle should be in its new location. So there it is. We've got everything bolted up. We don't have our bump stops on because I got to see where those are going to be hitting. We might need to redo the whole bump stop system. Here's a look at the shackle stop, bump, and it kind of looks like it's going to hit right here. These are the same size, so that should work. Got everything bolted up. Time to lower it down. The things I'm going to be looking out for here are the shock angles where it mounts, and then also this drag link, making sure it's not going to interfere with the tie rod. Those are the things we were worried about. You can kind of see in the back there that our drive shaft has slipped out because we've obviously gained some wheelbase from this. So anyways, let's lower this thing down. We'll take a look at our tire measurements and we'll see what changed, if anything. There we go. That looks better. There it is. I don't know if you saw when I first lowered it, this thing did not line up. They were kind of just sticking straight down. And I think what happened is that middle one was too tight on the shackle. So I loosened it up after I gave it a smack with that hammer. Now it's sitting how it's supposed to. Hard to tell so close in the garage, but it's definitely sitting higher in the front. All right, so the shock angles look good still. You can see our tape no longer lines up, so I'll get some measurements there for you in a second. So the tire did rotate forward a little bit. Let's just go from the top of the tire to the fender again, basically about right there. And you can see now we're at like 9 1/4. And then if we go from the tire to the front of the rock slider where we measured, now it's about 7 1/2. So not the most accurate measurement that we can get, but you can see that the axles definitely push forward, especially where that shackle hangs right now. The bolt in the eye of the leaf spring used to be like right there, and now it's a couple inches forward. So the whole thing's definitely forward. Looks like sitting in the garage, we've netted 2 inches of lift in the front, but I bet after it settles down and this pack gets worked out a little bit, it is gonna be the 1 1/2. You can see the shock is also kind of like leaning forward a little bit. So we definitely gained a little bit of wheelbase, which is perfect. So I can get the tire out of there. Really excited about this. Next thing we need to do is lift the rear. We're going to try to get about another 1 inch of lift in the rear. And then between the lift that we just got out of both, we're hoping to put 33s. All right, so we have finished the setup with the missing link, and now it's time to try it out. Well, the place that I normally go to test out the Samurai, my little proving grounds, is like totally full of water right now, and I don't really want to get stuck in the mud down there by myself. There's not really anywhere to flex it out. So what am I gonna do? Well, I'm gonna do some lawn wheeling. One question I get asked a lot when I do this kind of stuff is, do your neighbors just hate you? No, I don't think so. I mean, I do some lawn wheeling every now and then, but it's not often, it's not loud. I've yet to roll a vehicle over in the street. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna stack up some tires and some ramps that I use for my oil changes in the cars, and we're gonna see if we can get this baby to flex. All right, so this is a great time to look at our brake lines here. Plenty of slack in there. That's probably about as much droop as we're gonna wanna get on this side. The shock, I'm not sure how much more it has to go, probably a few more inches. Shackles not all the way straight yet, so we could probably go a little bit more there, but it's probably not good for the spring or the shock to go any more than that. Plus our brake line's getting dangerously close, so that's probably about as much as we wanna go. We've got our rear tire stuffed in there pretty decently. You can see if we had a 33, that'd probably be just about perfect if it goes up at this angle. So this is a 31, a 33 would be an inch closer to this piece of the body right here, which we can trim that off. And then we've got a pretty good amount on that side too, especially after trimming all this off. So this tire looks like it's just barely hanging on to the curb right there, but this side's in pretty much full droop too. So yeah, the back is pretty maxed out. You can see there's not really a reason to go missing link in the back because that's just so much flex already. I mean, that's not a limiting factor at all. Now for the good part, the front passenger side is pretty good on all areas. I mean, we're about, I'd say 2 inches away from this piece of body right here, even more distance between the body and the back. So that forward stretch really helped us out. So if we ran a 33 up here, I think we'd adjust the bump stop and then we'd be looking pretty good. One thing about getting this much flex out of these springs, you can kind of see right there, the front of this one looks like it's getting a lot of bend in it. Don't want to mess those up right there. And then this one right here is starting to get a little bit of a bend in it too. So definitely don't want to mess that up. Steering geometry looks great. Doesn't look like it's going to contact. Drive shaft's just barely hanging on back there. We only have a few inches of spline left. Definitely going to have to fix that. But yeah, buddy, looks great. So that is it. It's all buttoned up. Everything looks like it's working great. This is kind of what the stance looks like from the side right now. A little bit of an incline in the driveway. If I turn my camera like this, you can kind of get a better idea of how it's looking. Still a little bit more in the front, but that's okay. I think that's gonna settle down. And then we've got enough room to run a 33, which is gonna be a game changer for the Samurai. Guys, thanks for checking out our video. If you wanna see how the Samurai is gonna perform on the trail with this new suspension setup and hopefully the new tire setup, definitely consider subscribing. I put out a video pretty much every week. We document this, the Wrangler, and we've got a new truck joining the family pretty soon. So stay tuned for that. See you guys next time.